For those in their later years who've watched friends pass, who've felt time etching itself into their bodies, the mystery of death becomes more personal, more intimate. It's no longer a distant philosophical idea, but a quiet thought that lives just beneath the surface of every moment. One man, Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, left behind some of the most fascinating insights into the afterlife ever recorded. Known for entering deep trances where he claimed to access spiritual dimensions, Cayce offered glimpses of what he said lay beyond death. And now a rare, long-lost interview of his has resurfaced. Quietly hidden for decades, this recording has finally been transcribed by scholars. What he described wasn't mystical rambling, it was clear, calm, and deeply human. According to Cayce, death is not an end, but a transition fully conscious and deeply peaceful. There's no sudden void, no chaos, and certainly no punishment. Instead, he said, it feels like waking from a long, deep sleep. The soul gently separates from the body, aware and unafraid. You realize, he said, that you are still very much alive, just no longer bound by the physical. For many seniors who've lived through loss and carry quiet fears about the unknown, Cayce's words offer not just comfort but clarity. He believed the fear of death came from not knowing what to expect. If only people understood what awaited, he said they would live their final years not with dread, but with peace. One of the most moving parts of the interview is Cayce's description of the first moments after death. He spoke of a life review where the soul experiences its life in flashes but without judgment. There is no divine being punishing or condemning. Instead, the soul witnesses the joy it gave, the pain it caused, and the love it shared, not as memories but as feelings, pure and unfiltered. This review, Cayce said, is not imposed but desired by the soul, a way to truly understand its own journey. This stands in stark contrast to the fear-based teachings many have heard throughout their lives, where heaven and hell are used to control behavior. Cayce rejected the idea of a fixed paradise or eternal torment. Instead, he believed that the afterlife consists of spiritual states created by our intentions, emotions, and choices. We don't go somewhere, we become somewhere, and that changes everything. It shifts how we see our past mistakes, our regrets, even our pain. It offers not just forgiveness, but a chance to grow from them. Perhaps one of Cayce's most comforting revelations is about reunion. He claimed that shortly after leaving the body, souls are often greeted by loved ones who passed before them. Parents, siblings, friends, even old lovers. The reunion isn't loud or dramatic, it's emotional, quiet, profound. Recognition doesn't happen through sight, but through feeling. You know who they are and they've been waiting for you. For elderly people who've lost nearly everyone around them, this part of Cayce's message carries powerful emotional weight. The idea that no one crosses alone, that there are loving arms waiting on the other side, transforms fear into something closer to hope. Cayce also touched on one of the most mysterious aspects of the afterlife, time. He explained that time doesn't operate the same way beyond the body. A second can feel like a lifetime, and years can pass in what feels like a blink. Why? Because the soul isn't bound by clocks, but by intention. This explains why some spiritual presences feel immediate, even decades after death. Because in that realm, love and thought are the currency of movement. And he didn't just describe what happens after death. He gave advice for how to prepare for it while still here, not through rituals or dogma, but by cultivating peace, awareness, and gratitude. Cayce said that the soul doesn't carry possessions or status, it carries vibration, what we made others feel, what we felt deeply, what we did with love. That is what follows us. He urged everyone, especially in their later years, to review their lives with honesty and serenity, to forgive, to ask forgiveness, to let go, not because a judge demands it, but because it lightens the soul. What you don't release here, he warned, you carry with you. In the spirit world, that weight becomes more visible, and it either slows you down or sets you free. In a particularly curious part of the interview, Cayce spoke about those who reject any belief in life after death. He said these souls don't suffer, but they can feel disoriented, confused, unsure of what's happening. In these cases, spiritual guides or deceased family members approach, gently helping them adjust. This shows that belief isn't a requirement for the afterlife, but it does affect how it's experienced. For this reason, Cayce encouraged families to talk about death, especially with their elders, not to dwell on it, but to normalize it, to understand it. Because when we do, we live differently. We worry less, we resist less, we love more fully, and we fear less deeply. Another point Cayce emphasized was that death doesn't end connection. True love, he said, creates lasting bridges between realms. A deep thought, a quiet prayer, a vivid memory, these can all be channels of contact. Cayce gave accounts of spirits offering comfort, sending intuition, or simply letting their presence be felt. Especially for seniors burdened by guilt or unresolved love, this idea can be deeply healing. It reminds us that it's never too late to say I love you, or I'm sorry, or simply thank you. Instead of bracing for the end, we can begin living with more meaning now. Cayce also stressed that no one is abandoned, not the lost, not the broken, not the ones who made mistakes. He believed that every soul is seen and understood in its entirety, not by human laws, but by divine compassion. Even the darkest paths, he said, are part of spiritual learning. The soul is guided to understand what needs to change, not to be punished, but to grow. And if it takes more than one lifetime, so be it. For Cayce, reincarnation wasn't a curse, it was mercy. A second chance, or a thousandth if needed. This message is especially powerful for older adults who feel like time has run out. Cayce's insight. The soul is not bound by time. Life continues. Learning continues. And even after the last breath, there is still a road ahead of growth, healing, and new beginnings. He described these beginnings not as a final destination, but as a spiritual school. A place where the soul reflects, understands, and prepares. There is no rush, no deadline. Some take longer, others move quickly. Everyone travels at their own pace, and that in itself is deeply comforting. For those who've lived with pressure, deadlines, and expectations, this idea that the soul moves freely, respectfully, and purposefully is a relief. It invites us to begin this awareness now, to practice living consciously while we still can. Because the more aware we are in life, the smoother our passage into the afterlife. Cayce closed this forgotten interview with a final insight that has lingered with those who heard it. Small acts of love carry immense spiritual weight. A kind word, a sincere apology, a moment of listening. These, he said, matter more than any ritual or dogma. The soul doesn't measure greatness, it measures intention. If anything in this video brought you peace or stirred something within you, consider liking or subscribing to stay connected with more insights like these. Sometimes a single truth can quiet decades of silent fear, and perhaps, as Cayce believed, the most powerful preparation for death is learning how to live with love, with presence, and with the quiet understanding that nothing truly ends. The soul doesn't remember how things looked. It remembers how they felt. This simple truth shared by Cayce in his final years holds incredible power, especially for those in the later seasons of life. His message: it's never too late to do something meaningful. You don't need a grand gesture. Sometimes a single phone call, a quiet apology, or a heartfelt note is enough to bring closure to a chapter that's haunted you for years. And here's the part that will stay with you. Cayce said those acts of resolution don't die with the body. They travel with the soul. They lighten it, they heal it, they carry forward into the afterlife, leaving the spirit freer, more luminous, and more prepared for what comes next. Throughout the interview, Cayce insisted that life after death isn't a matter of belief. It's a matter of experience. He compared it to the wind. You don't have to see it to know it's real. You only have to feel it. In the same way, we don't need to fully understand the transition to experience it. What truly matters is how we live now. That's why he explained nurturing qualities like serenity, honesty, and love isn't just good for our relationships. It prepares our soul for the next stage. He offered no miracle cures, no easy escapes from pain, only the truth of what he said. He had seen a journey that continues full of new beginnings. For seniors who feel time slipping through their fingers faster than ever, this message isn't just comforting, it's an invitation. An invitation to pause, to reflect, to let go of fear, and to embrace the idea that the soul continues on. That every choice made in truth builds a bridge, not to an ending, but to a new chapter in the afterlife. Cayce said that the way we face death is often a reflection of how we've lived. Those who lived with resentment or harshness often feel fear at the end. But those who've practiced forgiveness found humor in their own flaws and treasured life's quiet moments. These are the ones who tend to face death with calm. And no, it wasn't about religion. It was about awareness. When the soul leaves the body, it carries nothing from the outside, no titles, no possessions. It only carries what it has built within. This is why caring for your inner world is so essential. We can't change the past, but we can change how we hold it. And for those in their golden years, that shift in perspective can be life-changing. There's still time to mend what's broken, to soften what's hardened, to make peace with even the most painful memories. Because as Cayce said, every truth realized with love becomes light on the soul's path. And that light guides us through the transition into the afterlife. Cayce also drew a powerful distinction between attachment and love. Attachment clings, love releases. He explained that when we hold on too tightly to loved ones who have passed, or even to objects tied to the past, we sometimes create barriers to our own spiritual growth. To honor someone doesn't mean holding them in the sorrow of their absence. It means remembering them with gratitude and choosing to live fully in their name. Especially for seniors who have lost a partner, a child, or a sibling, this understanding is crucial. It allows grief to soften into presence. Each cherished memory becomes like a candle lit in the dark, something that illuminates, not something that anchors you in pain. Letting go isn't forgetting, it's trusting that love doesn't need a body to survive, and that the bond remains quiet but strong in the afterlife. Among the most profound parts of the interview was Cayce's belief in purpose. He said, "No soul enters this world by accident. Every life has meaning, whether it's a grandfather who passes down wisdom, a mother who raises children with love, or a man who lives quietly with integrity. These lives may not make headlines, but they shape destinies." After death, Cayce said the soul gains a clearer view of that purpose. And when it realizes it has fulfilled its mission, however small or silent, it feels peace. For seniors who often wonder, did I do enough, that insight can bring deep comfort. Because not everything has to be grand. The essential thing is to live with truth. And even if the mission isn't clear yet, it continues until the final breath. Every choice still matters. Every thought still shapes the soul's future. Cayce also addressed the fear of death itself. He said it's not so much about dying, it's about facing the unknown. He likened it to a door we've walked past our whole lives, but never opened. And when we finally do, we realize that the space beyond it isn't dark. It's quiet. It's full of meaning. He described the moment when the soul leaves the body not as a violent rupture, but as a gentle release. The body's weight disappears so subtly that the spirit sometimes doesn't even realize it's gone until it tries to interact with the world and notices it's no longer seen or heard. This peaceful passage mirrors the stories of many who've had near-death experiences. Death, Cayce said, is more like falling asleep in one place and waking up in another. This image for older viewers especially replaces fear with a sense of continuity. Everything that has ever been lived doesn't end, it evolves. Cayce didn't promise miracles, but he did offer a simple logic. If life is about learning, then death can't be the end. It must be the continuation. Near the end of the interview, someone asked Cayce, "What would you do if you knew you had just one day left to live?" His answer was calm. He said, "I would give thanks. Thanks for the lessons. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the gift of life itself." He believed that gratitude is the most powerful emotion the soul can carry into the afterlife. It lightens the soul, and a light soul finds clearer paths. Cayce never tried to convince people to believe everything he said. He encouraged discernment. He urged people to seek their own understanding of what it means to exist beyond the physical. He suggested reading, meditating, spending time in silence, because in silence, he said, we hear the deepest truths, and those who make peace with silence are already halfway across the bridge to the afterlife. Even when criticized, Cayce never wavered. He believed that truth doesn't need to shout. It simply is. And so he told his story quietly, humbly, respectfully. Decades later, his words still echo, especially for those who feel the end of life approaching, not because he gave final answers, but because he opened space for a new way of seeing the unknown. For those who have lived much, loved deeply, and walked through countless storms, maybe what's needed now is not certainty, but a quiet truth spoken with love. And that's what Cayce offered, not promises, but perspectives, not dogmas, but open doors. In the final seconds of that long-forgotten interview, Cayce said something simple. Nothing is more liberating than understanding the soul is eternal. He didn't want you to celebrate death, just to stop fearing it, to understand it, to meet it with dignity. For every senior carrying the weight of a long life filled with joy, regret, forgiveness, and growth, this might be the final teaching. You don't need all the answers. You only need peace with the questions and the quiet courage to believe that the journey doesn't end here. Each sunrise isn't just the start of a new day, it's a quiet moment of preparation. The soul, whether we realize it or not, is always learning, growing, and quietly strengthening itself for something greater. And when the moment comes when we take that final breath, the journey doesn't end. We don't vanish, we don't go alone, we continue. But this continuation is not random. It's guided, supported by everything we built with love, with intention, with heart. The afterlife in this light is not a place of judgment or fear, but a natural extension of life itself. If something in this message stirred your heart, consider sharing it with someone who may need this reminder today. And if it resonates deeply, you're welcome to subscribe and join a growing community that respects and honors the sacred path each soul takes. There's something profoundly human about our desire to understand what comes after death. The afterlife is not just a philosophical question, it's a longing that lives in our very bones. Perhaps that's why Cayce's words, spoken decades ago, still echo across generations. He didn't offer tales of golden gates or eternal punishment. He didn't claim to have all the answers. What he did offer was something even more powerful, a vision of spiritual continuity. According to Cayce, every soul evolves. Even after death, we learn, we heal, we reunite with those we've loved. And that in itself is enough to change how we live now. For those nearing the end of life, this perspective can bring serenity. For those still walking this earthly path, it can serve as an invitation to live more truthfully, more gently, and more fully. Because at the end of it all, it's not our titles, our possessions, or our achievements that matter. It's the love. That's what we take with us. That's what builds the bridge between this world and the afterlife. Cayce often spoke of this transition not as a cliff, but as a gentle crossing, a passage full of meaning, and he reminded us no one needs to face it alone. There is always a presence, a memory, a bond that follows us across that unseen threshold. For those who've ever felt the comforting presence of a loved one long after they've passed, you already know There is something beyond what we can touch or see, and that something is love. Cayce didn't invent this idea, he simply gave voice to what many already sensed. Deep within, the ties between souls are never severed by death. They evolve, they deepen, they shine brighter through longing and become sacred through remembrance. The elderly, in their quiet wisdom, often understand this best. They've stood at the edge of countless farewells, watched as loved ones slipped beyond the veil, and learned to listen to the silences that only time can explain. Cayce's insights were never hollow comforts. They were bridges between reason and hope, between science and the soul. He didn't romanticize death. He didn't fear it either. He saw it as a natural, even necessary step in the sacred rhythm of existence. And in sharing his glimpses of the afterlife, he left behind a gift, the possibility of approaching the end not with dread, but with reverence. Every word he left behind whispers the same truth: dying is not disappearing. It's continuing, and continuing with dignity, with peace, with love. That's what we all deserve. If this message sparked something in you, a memory, a question, a feeling, you're invited to share your experience in the comments. Your voice matters. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this kind of message resonates with your spiritual journey, consider subscribing. Here we explore life, death, and the afterlife with the tenderness and truth that every soul deserves. Cayce's message remains clear and powerful. Death is not an abyss, it's a bridge. And one day we'll all cross it in our own time, in our own way, carrying with us the love we created, the memories we cherished, and the lives we touched. May your journey be filled with grace. And when your moment comes, may you recognize in the great silence the warm embrace of those who have been waiting for you just beyond the veil. Because as Cayce said, no one truly departs alone. No one is ever lost. And real love, the kind we nurture here, becomes the compass that guides us home.